Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Ms. Klein. Are you okay? Do you want some water? It's been a long morning. One of the challenges that I've got is the fact of understanding the governance at Eskom with the board committees. When we know the Public Finance Management Act lays certain responsibilities on the board. So I've just noticed your last response to that question about the 750 million and almost saying, but we know nothing about it. But the Public Finance Management Act places responsibilities upon the board. Now, you with your very experienced background, it's a bit of a concern that it seems that the board does not accept responsibility for a lot of the decisions taken. And your paragraph 21, furthermore, the board struggled with not having all the required information at hand when submissions were presented. Now, surely that is unacceptable because in terms of both the Companies Act and the PFMA, it can't be so. The board accepts the responsibility. It now appears that many of the submissions that were considered in my time, that's your time, contained misleading information or completely omitted critical information. So you say that's now in hindsight, but firstly, do you accept responsibility, or is this a governance issue that there's a breach of the PFMA Act? You understand what I'm saying? You were the chairman of subcommittees, but the board must accept responsibility at the end of the day, and it seems that there have been substantial breaches of the Public Finance Management Act on your own version here.
Honourable Swart, I have to agree with you, and I'm going to go as far as to say that one of my first concerns at Eskom, I raised it earlier, as a banker, was the level of the delegation of authority down. I mean, for any executive to have 750 million rands worth of decision-making power, as a banker was, in my mind, I couldn't fit it in there. The problem, however, and this is something, and I'm hoping, the inquiry will decide on the way forward, but as part of a solution going forward, I think things like this, the delegation of authority, the size of an organization of Eskom must be reconsidered. You are right. The board takes accountability for everything that happens. But if the delegation of authority says that management can decide up to 750 and everything that goes wrong there, the boards are sitting ducks, because you're not going to see that come to you, because in terms of the scale and the delegation of authority, which by the way had been signed off in 2013, that's how long this has been looked at, the last time it was looked at, that is unfortunately where it sits. So I'm not trying to pass the buck on the McKinsey thing and say, I don't know. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in terms of the delegation of authority, it never came to this board. But that the board would be held accountable, of course, for all of it. But this has got to be reviewed.
Thank you. So one of the other issues of the Public Finance Management Act is to be very careful in terms of your general responsibilities to ensure that within your sphere of influence, that accounting authority, that's the board, to prevent any prejudice to the financial interests of the state. That would include the SOCs. These are very general, but they are binding. We know that. Now, the decisions on the 11th of March relating to the suspension of those 4 executives, you come in with your experience. You are now challenged. Mr. Totsi is saying this must happen so that there's an inquiry that led to the downgrade of the credit rating once that had been taken place. Surely, with your experience, the suspension of 4 executives, your financial director, your CEO, your 2 other group executives, surely it must have been foreseeable that that would have a serious implication for the financial standing of Eskom. Because we already know that the ratings agencies were watching, and there's an immediate downgrade that we know the implications of that. So with hindsight, surely that was not a wise decision.
Sorry, are you still?
Yes, continue, that's fine.
Like I think I conceded that this morning. It wasn't a wise decision. But, and this is not an excuse, this is the reality of what we faced at the time. You were sitting at the helm of a company costing this country circa 434 million. That is the calculations that were done. a year, not a year, a day, in terms of load shedding at stage 3. That was the same time, I'll never forget, we had the State of the Nation address sometime in February, and the one thing that we were worried about is that the lights were going to go off while this was happening. So you have all of this going on. So what you needed to balance as a board member is, do you take a decision which, by the way, you heard me say, wasn't necessarily our first option. We wanted to debate and find more detail as to why these people needed to be suspended. But we were persuaded, given the gravity of Eskom with its financial challenges, as well as the load shedding, etc., that this was going to be the quickest way to do it. Now, at the time, that sounded like the right thing.
I understand that, and I'm sorry I need to interrupt you because of limited time. But you've served on various boards, you're very experienced. Have you ever experienced something like this in your life before, where your 4 top executives are suspended at once? Who's going to be the operation? Surely that is unheard of. Sorry, the question is, have you ever experienced anything like that in your life before? No.
Absolutely not, which is why we pushed back.
I understand, and I appreciate the fact that you did. Now, you have said that you would support a full commission of inquiry into the whole issues, and the term is used, state capture. Is that in agreement, or are you in agreement with that? And you were asked questions about links to the Gupta families. Have you read subsequently about state capture of Eskom, and are you aware of some of the information in that regard? It's a very general question, but you supported a commission of inquiry into many malfeasance at Eskom. Is that correct?
Absolutely, sir.
But have you read the Public Protector's report?
I have.
And you're aware that Eskom has not taken it on review?
That's actually a critical point.
So that the President has taken it on review on a very small legal point, but the factual findings in the Public Protector's report stand. Would you agree with that? They stand. I mean, it's common knowledge, because they have not been taken on review.
Let me answer you this way. I spoke to you about the meeting of the 21st of November where that...
I really need to interrupt you. You would agree that the factual findings stand?
No, sir. I want to respond to that, if I may,
But it's a simple question, yes or no?
The information that I have received is that we could not take it on review because there were no findings. That's the information we were given by legal, various senior counsel, because there's a board resolution where the board said you will take this on review, and we were told by our head of legal and senior counsel we could not. The only reason the President could take it was because that was the finding, that he has got to establish a commission set up by, I think, the Chief Justice.
I appreciate that, and again, you indicated relying on legal advice. But let me just give you an example. On page 315, a finding is, it appears that the conduct of Eskom was solely to benefit Tegeto in awarding contracts, and in doing so funded the purchase of OCH, and is thus a severe violation of the PFMA. That's a finding, and is thus a severe violation of the PFMA. Now, if I, with my limited legal understanding, that is a finding that is standing, and there are a lot of factual findings. Yes, it's couched in it appears, but I appreciate that you got legal advice and you chose not to contest that, but those factual findings remain in the public domain, and they indicate a level of state capture which is, I'm sure, if you read that, is of great concern to you. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, can I just say that I sit on the board of the Reserve Bank, where we've gone exactly with what you've said. We've taken it on review, etc., which is what I really struggled with in Eskom's case, that we didn't. Remember, I left there more than 6 months ago, but having said that, I've gone back and I was told categorically, here are the opinions to say we could not take it on review.
Correct. Thank you for that. That does clarify issues. I quickly want to relate back to that March, the 4th suspension, because we've got evidence from Ms. Daniels that 2 days before that, on the 9th of March, she was invited to a meeting with Mr. Salim Issa. 2 days before that meeting, with the head of generation, Mr. Machile Koko, where she was told These suspensions are going to happen in 2 days' time by Mr. Salim Essa, who we know is a right-hand man to the Gupta family. Now, you have obviously got no knowledge of that, but that is evidence that is before us, and obviously it will be tested, and people can come and contest that and say it's not true. But on the basis of what we've heard at this stage, is that not a great concern to you, given the fact of what happened on the 11th of March when those 4 executives were suspended, that someone outside of the company would have known of that, and furthermore, that one of the people that were to be suspended was the financial director who had opposed the signing of the New Age breakfast deal, which relates to a Gupta-related company. Do you put the dots together?
I was horrified when I heard Ms. Daniel say that. I could not believe it. So I'm really, I mean, that's why I say this thing must get going now, really.
Last question. You see, a commission of inquiry is one thing, but as many have said and as I have said in Parliament, there is nothing to prevent the institution now of criminal and civil action at this stage, now, based on the prima facie evidence that can be contested in a court of law. Is it not a concern to you that there doesn't seem to be much progress in investigating the prima facie allegations that are contained in various reports, including the Public Protector's report?
I absolutely agree. That's something that we need to do.
Thank you. My time is expired. Thank you.
You're welcome.